Alice Springs Court today. I want to bring in now Malarndirri McCarthy. She's a senator for the Northern Territory, and Shirleen Campbell. She's the coordinator of the Tangentyere Women's Safety Group. Thanks so much for your time, both of you. This is another shocking story, and it's something that we have to talk about, that's uncomfortable to talk about, and it seems almost just disgusting, Malarndirri McCarthy, that we're talking about it so soon after the rape of a 2-year-old in Tennant Creek.
It's absolutely concerning, Laura, and one of the things that has to happen immediately, of course, is working with the child and the families. But I also know that the Aboriginal health organisations, in particular NACCHO and others, are also working in this space and will be providing their own release in relation to it at some point. But importantly, that the child is safe.
Yeah, it's important the child is safe now. Shirleen, thanks so much for your time today. And I know you're in Parliament House today for a special event there, but in your experience, I mean, we were warned after the rape of that 2-year-old that this would not be an isolated incident, and it's not an isolated incident because we now have these other incidents just a couple of weeks down the track. I think everyone's shocked by this. But are you as shocked as the rest of us?
Yes, I was pretty shocked, but really, basically, it's not my role to talk about it. I'm here to talk about the work that we do.
Yeah, sure.
What we're doing.
Okay, yep, I totally appreciate that. And as I mentioned, you're the coordinator of a women's safety group. So let me ask you about that. What are the concerns for you in your community? What are the biggest concerns about women's safety? And I think when we're talking about women's safety, you also would be talking about children as well.
Yeah, really, it's all about that visibility. As Aboriginal women, you know, we don't have our voices, and we don't basically, you know, not really loud enough. Having me as a young person, a spokesperson and a co-coordinator for a Tangentyere Women's Family Safety Group, I have the knowledge and courage, and I get my strength from my elders, and it's really privileged to have that power because I know I can take that on and share it with others, and you know, especially the young ones, because the young ones are our future. We need to teach them and how to protect themselves and how to have a healthy home and have a healthy family lifestyle.
Shirleen, are things getting better or worse, do you think?
As ripple effects, it is getting better slowly. I've always told my women, you know, it's not going to happen overnight. All it takes is baby steps. Originally, that's how we all grew up. It's baby steps.
Absolutely. Malarndirri, can I ask you, when you were Child Protection Minister, you ordered a board of inquiry conducted by the former NT Children's Commissioner Howard Barth and Muriel Bamblett. The report found that there were a backlog of cases within child protection that were being written off without proper investigation. And then 8 years later, we're seeing a similar thing happen, 2 incidents in recent weeks. Why do you think nothing has changed?
Look, I think if we refer to the Board of Inquiry report, there were many recommendations which came out of that, and certainly, as we saw in subsequent years, many of those recommendations are still needing to be met. And I think that one of the pivotal things that's occurring at the moment is the involvement of the Children's Commissioner, which is something that we did establish. We have to look at this from 2 perspectives. One is from a systemic perspective in terms of departmental process, and the Northern Territory Government just talked about its recent review into Tennant Creek, and there were failures, and that has been and is being looked into further. But there's another perspective that hasn't been as clearly defined, which Shirleen is very much a part of, and that's the grassroots work of women and men and families on the ground, and the work of these women from Tangentyere, from the 16 town camps around Alice Springs, is about empowering local people to look into and work with these issues. And the mentoring program that these women do in relation to other women and young women, there is also another area in working with men. So that is an important component that Aboriginal community-controlled health organisations have consistently asked for, and there has to be the work with local people and local solutions with their families.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, this point has been made in recent weeks in particular, and I appreciate that. But we have seen evidence in recent weeks, and this is coming back to the child protection issue, and sorry to you, Shirleen, I'll come back to you in a moment, that the Child Protection Department, who are perhaps giving priority to culture over safety of children. Now, I don't know the circumstances of this 4-year-old boy that we hear the news of today, but how is it possible that we're seeing 2-year-olds and 4-year-olds being raped? Is there a failure of the system? What do you say to that evidence that we've seen in recent weeks and heard that evidence from whistleblowers that sometimes culture is given a priority over safety?
Look, I think we have to be really careful here, Laura, that, and this has been a misnomer and a perpetuated myth of culture. It is wrong to put this as a reason for why things are occurring. Children are being hurt. They're being hurt. And I think we have to be really clear here that, you know, these conversations around stolen generation and the reiteration of that as an argument is wrong. I mean, children are being hurt. And I think that when we talk about the care and protection of children, of course First Nations families want to know that their child is being looked after either in their family safely or in their kinship group safely. What the system and the Westminster system still struggles with is this collaboration with First Nations people. And we're not doing it as an Australian democracy. We're not doing it in working directly with the First Nations people and families of this country.
So when it comes to these reports, evidence, and some whistleblowers coming forward to say that there is some evidence that priority is given to culture over safety, do you think they are not happening? Do you think they are isolated incidents? What do you think's happening there?
Look, I think for those individuals who have particular examples and concerns, they clearly need to be heard. But there is a much bigger issue here, and that is that First Nations organisations, Aboriginal community-controlled health organisations, Aboriginal families and women's groups are not being supported, Laura. And that is the fundamental key issue here. If you're going to remove funding, if you're not going to give them 5 to 10 years of support and believe that that is the way forward, you're going to consistently have this clash.
Shirleen, is that your experience?
Yep, not so much my experience, but maybe there's others out there had that similar experience.
So do you feel like you and the work you do, you're supported by the government and within your own community though?
Yeah, I'm really supported from my community, especially my Arundel women's, my grandma, my aunties, they're all supportive, they all stand strong while we're here in Canberra. I'm pretty privileged being here with the rest of my Tangentyere family safety group women's, because we are the core governance group for our women's, and we are the voices.
Shirleen, obviously you've got more work to do, and I wish that you didn't have to head up a women's safety group, but it's the reality. So what are you doing in Parliament House today? What are you calling on politicians like Malarndirri to do? Or particularly, perhaps it's the government you're more wanting to hear from, not so much Malarndirri.
Yeah, no, we want the government to listen to us, stand with us and to support us. We're here in Canberra to lobby our Tangentyere Women's Family Safety Group to expand our work, and we want to go out to communities and other towns to share what we're doing, or maybe teach other people to go out and share their work, what we shared our work to.
Shirleen, just one final question on this, because often when it comes to your community and what we report on at a national...
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Sorry, can you? Hopefully you can hear me now. But we may have lost audio to Shirleen and Malarndirri. But
I can hear you, Laura.
Oh,
I can hear
you.
you.
I'm hearing that you have to get into the chamber, Malarndirri, because the bells are ringing in the Senate.
It's question time.
Sorry about the interruption. I'll leave it there. Shirleen,
right.
Thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. But